The voice of Husker Nation is on the air. This is Hail Varsity Radio. Insight, opinion, expertise, along with the biggest names talking Nebraska sports. Join in with the show at 402-489-1240 or 1-800-825-5865. Now, here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbel.
Welcome to it, Mondays here. It's Hail Varsity. We're powered by Cornhead Lager. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. Hail Varsity YouTube channel. Like, subscribe. Also, give us a follow on the Hail Varsity Radio Twitter page at HVarsity Radio. Different platforms. You can watch the show or catch up with it as well. KFOR, Facebook and Twitter, and AM 590 Omaha's ESPN. Our friends out in Central Nebraska, the Superstation, Kearney Hastings, Grand Island, and News Talk 900 in Columbus. We'll get to emails. We'll take your calls, and we'll dive into Friday. That double dip as chance to slay the Aggies. Do it for the state of Nebraska. 489-1240, 489-1240 to get in. 800-825-5865. Can email Chris at hailvarsity.com. Connor has made it back from spring break. Hold your wrists up. Hold your wrists.
We're clean.
Okay, yeah, there's... well, I'm praying he wasn't doing that over the weekend down in... Arms up, turn around.
Notice how I did that so gracefully in the studio.
You did.
Yeah.
You've had practice.
No ankle monitors either?
Not that I remember.
Careful,
or
though.
Have right now.
We have a new listener / viewer that wants to see feet. So
good point.
That is true. The only ankle monitor I have is from you guys when you're on the road. So
a little bit. That's the way to be. So we'll get to our starting five. We'll get you shouted out. First five in the stream, plus a few folks. As we do this every day, our starting five in the stream. Guys, how we feeling? There was no drama when it comes to the selection committee. Is Nebraska in or out? A lot of years in the past, Nebraska, you felt like they were in, and you knew they were in back in '94 with the automatic bid, winning the Big 8 tournament. This year, as the bubble tightened, and it tightened, man, with a lot of surprise Cinderella runs, specifically NC State and Oregon taking those bid thieves. It's a good thing Nebraska got to 23. It's a good thing Nebraska beat Indiana to eliminate any doubt. Now, Nebraska's playing good basketball right now. They played a great half against Illinois. Didn't have enough giddy up in the second half, and Jawan Gary and Fred had some comments. Fred's weren't pointed comments about the officiating, but you couldn't hold a lead. You get beat by Illinois. You get a chance to recoup and just get fueled back up for Memphis on Friday. But the joke that just keeps on giving, and it's not a joke of a program, Texas A&M's a really good basketball team. Talking to some friends in the SEC, there was a little worry about A&M getting in, heading into the SEC tournament, but then them being able to do what they did in the semis, beating Kentucky a third time this season, was the clincher. They lost by 5 to Florida. Now you get a team that can't really hit threes. They've got good guard play when they're on, and you'll hear a lot about the offensive rebounding of Texas A&M. They either don't shoot it so well or, man, are they great at offensive rebounding. A 44% clip. That's what Fred Hoiberg was talking about. We'll hear from Fred. We'll hear from Matt Rhule. Today is a day of football as well. And we'll check in with, he's going to be our Hail Varsity correspondent in Memphis. Beau Reid, Husker Hall of Famer. He's going to be on site to see the Big Red make history Friday. That's awesome. So Beau Reid with us in about 15 minutes. In hour two, Mr. Blackshirt, Charlie McBride, and also Jay Moore with Big Red Wrap-Up, Blackshirt Husker NFL, our Blackshirt Hour. There's a lot of feedback and venom on Twitter towards Trev Alberts. That story continues, and there was some folks that are putting up the clip of Jim Carrey throwing up or dry heaving from Dumb and Dumber. That scene in the movie, right? Well, that's what folks sent as a reaction visually to Trev putting on that maroon blazer. And he did the old Aggie dance and looked uncomfortable. But, hey, moving on. Do you love or hate the A&M matchup? The reaction was glorious last night from Nebraska fans and from all sorts of folks who tune into the Big Red because of payback, right? It's still fresh. The wound is not healed. It's a chance to take it out.
Team reaction was gold.
Right. Separate it. Elijah Herbel at Herbal Essence has zoom-in footage of team reaction, facial expressions.
And some amateur lip reading as well.
Right. But
just a little bit.
The reality is it's going to be Buzz Williams. It's going to be A&M. It's going to be Nebraska. It's going to be Bryce Williams. It's going to be Tominaga. It's going to be Alec and Gary. And it's going to be this squad trying to end the drought of all droughts. But the takeaway, and Matt Rhule mentioned it today too, about not making it about the players or the team. It's about the other storyline. It is about the AD who walked out and went to now the team you're faced with defeating on the men's and women's bracket in round one. One's in Corvallis, the other's in Memphis.
And personally,
I don't hate it. I think it's glorious. I think it's fun. That's my take. I don't care who they play. This seems to be a decent matchup if Nebraska is right out of the gate.
Two things can be true. Once, as we enter on Monday, I am ready to move on and say, all right, Trev, he's off at A&M. He's at the introductory press conference. Let's move on. On one hand, I feel that way. On the other hand, I'm like, man, what a great opportunity to get some closure on Friday for Husker Nation. That's what I kind of like. It's exciting because, A, it's a grudge match. There's a little extra juice for the fans. But B, if you can go get a win on Friday night, it's a chance to just, I think, from Husker Nation's point of view, have some finality. You know what? Trev may have left Nebraska last week, but we got him one last time in the NCAA tournament. We took him down. We move on. We get the first tournament win in program history, and to make it extra sweet, it's over Trev. That's what the opportunity is, and that's why I love the matchup. Is it just adds a little bit more juice to it for the fans. Maybe the players have a little bit more motivation for it. I think they're going to have all the motivation they needed no matter who they played because it's the NCAA tournament. You bowed out of the Big Ten tournament in a disappointing way, so you're going to have that juice going all week long. It's a case to me, like Matt Rhule said it earlier today, like, man, I hope this is about the players on the court and not about the stuff going on behind the scenes. At the end of the day, this gets some extra national eyes on it. This gets some extra juice for the Husker fan base. And once that ball tips off, you're not going to be thinking about Trev Alberts and what it means for that. You're going to be locked in on the game, watching that, and it's going to be about the players once the game tips off. So yeah, sure, give it some extra motivation. Give the talking heads like Schmidt and myself and Connor some extra things to talk about this week. Make it a little bit more fun. At the end of the day, sports is about fun. And if you don't think this is fun, I don't know what to tell you. I think it's extremely fun, a chance to get one back at Trev after what he pulled last week.
Well, you can get two if you want to talk about the women's bracket. But, I mean, the committee knew exactly what they were doing. Exactly what they were doing. You knew that every single member on that committee was scrolling through a little bit of Husker Twitter this week and said, this fan base is going to eat this up. And I know you don't want to overtake the game with the storyline, but this was no accident, okay? Let's just get that out of the way. Matchup-wise, I think it's going to be a really good one. I think there are things that favor Nebraska. I think there are things that go against Nebraska.
Classic 8-9 matchup,
exactly, right? So I believe the win percentage I saw on a website earlier today was Nebraska, like just over 51%. So it's going to be a tightly contested game. Everybody's talking about the offensive rebounding numbers. A number that scares me a little bit is all three games in the SEC tournament, they scored 80, 97, and 95. So this is a team that has been scoring a ton. I know they played Kentucky, which is a team that scores at will and gives up points at will as well. But when I was going through the resume earlier today, and I texted you two about this, and I wanted to hit this on the show today, one of the more interesting overall bodies of work I've seen in a college basketball team this year. They're in the mid-40s in the net, and I know the metrics aren't everything, but it kind of felt that way when you looked at the selection committee, but that's a conversation for another day. They're 7-7 in quad one games. 7's a lot of quad one wins, and Nebraska also 7 losses. They're 2-4 in quad 3. Now they have wins over Kentucky multiple times, Florida, Tennessee, and Mississippi State. All those teams are in the field. Losses to FAU, who a lot of people have problems with them being on an 8 line. They should be worse. Memphis, who is out. Arkansas twice, who is not in the field. Ole Miss, and Vandy, who just fired their coach and finished second to last. So this is a really up-and-down team, and that really intrigues me about, okay, which A&M are we going to see? Probably the good one, but going through their schedule, that raised a lot of eyebrows.
Well, it underscores the streakiness of this Texas A&M team. I mean, it's a team of streaky shooters. You look at their season stats. I mean, Nebraska's running into a team that, based on their season stats, you look at, like, how does this team make the tournament? They're shooting, as a team, less than
3 wins over Kentucky, a loss by 4 to Houston.
I mean, but like as a team, they're shooting under 30% from 3. They're shooting under 40% from the field. As a team, they shoot 70% from the free throw line. You look at that and you go,
that's very Indiana.
How does this team make the tournament? But they rebound really, really well. I believe they average over 42 rebounds per game, and a good number of those coming on the offensive glass. They have a great rebounder in Anderson Garcia. They kind of turn their offense over to Wade Taylor, the point guard, and if he's on, they're hard to beat. If he's off, they can lose some weird games. That's what this team is built on, essentially. It's Wade Taylor offensively. You have Anderson Garcia on the glass. And if it turns into a three-point shooting contest, they're not likely to win, but that's not how they want to play the game. They're going to miss some shots, but they're going to get on it on the offensive glass, try to get some easy second-chance points. I think it matches up well for Nebraska. The concern is if Wade Taylor is on one, which he has been known to do this season, things get tough for Nebraska. It's a streaky basketball team. They were on a good offensive streak in the SEC tournament. Can they carry that over? We'll see. That remains to be seen. But where you get concerned with this team is if they're playing at their best. I do believe they're hard to beat, but they have not always played at their best this season.
Well, and Nebraska is not going to get a dose of what they saw from Terrence Shannon Jr. likely again. I mean, there'll be very few guards that are as talented and as physical and gets as many whistles as Illinois. I'm not whining about Nebraska and officiating. I'm just saying, listen, it's only likely downhill in this matchup compared to what you just faced. Take some of that with you, learn from it, put it in your back pocket, apply it to Friday night at 5:50.
I mean, Terrence Shannon, I talked about it on Friday and a little bit on Saturday as well. That's an NBA guy. That's a future lottery pick. You're not going to run into many of those guys. He really scared me. He single-handedly went and beat you. You can complain about the officiating all you want, but his ability to get to the rim and go and draw fouls is second to none, pretty much in the country. You saw that on Saturday. That's the guy who put the team
on Sunday too.
That's the guy who put the team on his back and route to a Big Ten championship game. You know what? Nobody else in the Big Ten can stop him either. And if Terrence Shannon plays like that in the NCAA tournament, there's not a lot of teams in the country that can go and stop that. So I think you ran into a team that was really hot and riding a hot hand. Texas A&M is not built that same way. I think you have a better chance of winning. You say ESPN puts it at 51%. I have it higher than that for Nebraska because of all the ways Nebraska can beat you. Texas A&M is not built that multiply offensively, and I think that is an advantage Nebraska, but it's going to be a close game. It's going to be an 8-9 matchup. It's going to be up for grabs in the second half. I just like Nebraska's odds to be able to go grab that win.
Ohio State, Penn State also on the schedule for A&M this year, and they were 6 to 8 point winners in each of those matchups.
Yeah, they've played some Big Ten teams close. I think another good thing about going back to the Illinois game for Nebraska is, obviously you played them twice. I'd say you played them pretty tough twice, probably more so in the first matchup than in the second one, but you were still at 15 in the second half. They're the number one offensive rebounding team in the Big Ten. So you already saw a pretty good challenge with them, and you were able to do a decent job on the boards. Now, again, you're not going to see a guy like TSJ every day. I mean, as Elijah said, future NBA guy. I've been saying this for a year and a half now. I think he's the most NBA-ready body in the league. I mean, he gets up and down like no one other in the country. So fast, he's so physical. You don't see that every day, and you just have to give credit where credit is due. Now, can Nebraska shoot the three ball like they did against Indiana? That will be the question. Obviously, 14 threes is a lot, and you saw Casey go on a heater. And you'll hear Beau Reid talk about this a little bit later in the hour, but Bryce Williams was massive in this tournament. Not only did he have 23 against Indiana, he had 23 against Illinois as well. So he's been playing very well offensively. If they can get Rink going a little bit more, obviously off to a quick start, but then got into some foul trouble couldn't play as much, didn't score until about halfway through that second half again after scoring 13 points in the first 8 minutes of that semifinal game. So I think Nebraska's had plenty of experiences where they've played tough teams. You heard Rink and Josiah say it in their presser after Selection Sunday yesterday. It felt like that they've played in a lot of games that have had quote-unquote must-win written on them if they want to get off the bubble. So it seems like they're used to a scenario like this, and they've seen plenty of teams that are physical on the glass. And I think Nebraska over the last month has gotten better about being physical on the glass, and they haven't really been dominated in a way that they were dominated, say, at Rutgers or at Maryland. Mm-hmm. So I like a lot of things for Nebraska in this matchup, but there are also a handful of things that I like for A&M in this matchup too, and we can dive further into that as the week goes along.
I still don't think Nebraska's faced an offensive rebounding team like Texas A&M. I'm convinced this game's going to be close. I'd go as far as to say I feel like this could be one of the games you get to the second half and you say, how is Texas A&M only down by 4? Feels like Nebraska's the better team.
They're shooting 19%, Johnny.
Yeah.
Well, they have 48 offensive rebounds. Coach Smith nailed it. We talked to Jeff Smith this morning on the KFOR morning show, and he's just like, look, A&M's a little more finesse with the way they offensive rebound, so it's not Big Ten-like. We'll get our shout-outs here real quick. KG says, what's up? Brandon is in. Tuck. Jeff Snitley in at 4. Roger 5. And Justin in at 6, along with Brian and Brennan. Beau Reid next.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back into it. It's Hail Varsity, powered by Cornhead Lager. We say hi to Beau Reid, Husker Hall of Famer. Find and follow Beau on Twitter at BReid40. Beau, how you feeling, man? Friday can't get here soon enough. Are you headed to Memphis?
I am.
Well, wonderful. A correspondent.
Right.
We'll be at Ameristar at the sports book doing our show live Friday, so excited about that. But you're going to be on the scene, and let's get into it. What do you think of the matchup drawing A&M?
Well, aside from the political visual stunt that it is, which I hate, the matchup itself I like. There's two things about A&M that are a little scary. The first is they lead the nation in offensive rebounding percentage, which I think you probably saw Nick Baugh's tweet. Mm-hmm. So they really go to the offensive glass, which has been a little bit of an Achilles heel for us this year.
Big time.
The other thing is, even though they don't particularly shoot it well, and we've been known to go ahead and zone people, they really penetrate hard, which would lend itself to a zone because they don't shoot well, but they really are good at getting to the rim. Mm-hmm. But that offensive rebounding concerns me, So I think if Fred can dial up the solution for that, I think they're going to have a hard time guarding us, frankly.
Beau, what's your level of concern with Wade Taylor, the point guard for Texas A&M? Nebraska's been able to manage all season long without a point guard, but now you look at this other end, you're going up against a guy who's averaging, I think, almost 34 minutes a game, almost 20 points, adds a couple of assists. He leads the team in points, assists, and steals. He's a real player at that point guard spot. Are you concerned about Nebraska's ability to match up with him on the defensive side of things?
Well, for sure. I'd rather have their best player be a swingman, and when you get into the tournament, it seems like point guard play always comes down to that. So, yeah, he's definitely a concern. He's a strong guy. He gets into the lane a lot, and he's the one guy on their team that's a pretty decent threat to shoot it from three. I think he's made like 88 threes. So he's the guy. I mean, our game plan kind of has to get built around containing him and keeping the other guys off the boards. So, yeah, he's a concern for sure. Foul trouble also is, seeing Gary get in foul trouble in that last game really hurt us a lot. And Alec didn't seem to be playing at full strength, his knee, for whatever reason. I didn't see that all happen, but he had a hitch in his giddy up the last 10 minutes of that game. He wasn't the same guy. So it's, Illinois came out the second half and stepped up the level of aggressiveness, physicality, athleticism. This team's similar, but not as skilled as Illinois. So I feel like we're going to be okay.
Beau Reid is with us here on Hail Varsity Radio. And Beau, I was looking at Texas A&M's resume earlier today, and I think it's one of the more interesting ones really within the entire country. 7-7 in Quad 1 games, but just 2-4 against Quad 3 opponents. I know the metrics aren't the end-all, be-all, but what do you make of this Texas A&M team and how kind of inconsistent they've been with good teams and bad teams?
Yeah, I think some of that can get chalked up to how physical they play. I think sometimes you play against lesser teams, particularly in the non-conference. And, I think sometimes you can get lulled into, the ref all of a sudden calls something a foul that isn't a foul in the SEC. And now your big guys are in foul trouble and your guards get called for charges and you get a little sideways. The other thing is sometimes some teams have the personality. They play down to the level of their competition. Clearly they step it up when they're playing against good people. I saw the Kentucky game in the SEC tournament. I did not see the next game that they lost. Against Kentucky, it looked to me like they just met Kentucky's level of athleticism, and I don't know that Kentucky shoots it particularly well. It was basically a battle of teams that like to dribble penetrate. So I think we're going to pose a much different problem for them. They're going to have to flat guard us on the perimeter, which should open up our ability to get to the rim. And I don't know that they have a dominant big. So, I don't know. That's why I like this matchup. I feel like we have enough depth and enough options that we can find a combination that works against these guys.
Few minutes with us, Beau Reid, Husker Hall of Famer, Hail Varsity Radio, Nebraska, and A&M. Friday at the Pyramid, round one of the NCAA Tournament. Beau, let's talk history. You guys knocked on that door. Some of Danny's teams had opportunities. Of course, 10 years ago, it was Nebraska v. Baylor down in San Antonio. What makes you?
Matchup for us.
Yeah, that wasn't good. What makes you believe Friday could be the night for Nebraska basketball?
Well, the first thing is I love Fred's humility around it, like the fact that he was somewhat emotional and understood what it took in terms of the journey to get a group of kids to this level at Nebraska. I like that. I think they're going to play with a lot of passion and purpose. So I feel like Fred has just a different approach. It felt like every other year we went, with the exception of Miles' year, and we just got a bad draw. Mm-hmm. But all those other years with Coach Nee, it felt like we were seated lower than we should have been, and we should have, we were picked to win those games all by pretty significant amounts, with the exception maybe one of those we might have been a slight underdog. But it was a different deal. We felt like we were in a position where we're supposed to win and everything, and I don't think these kids will take that for granted. I just think that if we stick to what we do, which is play for each other, play super hard, lay it on the line, have Alec and Sam get to those 50-50 balls for us that they've done all year, and then for whatever reason we didn't get those in the second half against Illinois, I just think we're going to find a way to get it done. That's why I want to go. I want to be there when we finally stop this crap where people say we've never won an NCAA tournament game. I'm sick of it.
And I don't want to look too far ahead, Beau, but if they win on Friday, I kind of like the matchup with Houston on Sunday with how many three-pointers Houston gives up. That's a discussion point, I think, for another day. I think considering Nebraska's history, we're not going to talk about the round of 32.
Houston, when we haven't ever won a game.
Yeah, I'm just throwing it out there.
Let's stick to the present, fella.
I'm just throwing it out there. The matchup is decent.
Beau's white knuckling right now. He's just gripping the
I know.
desk.
I'm like, wow, you're really going to go there and jinx us? Come on.
I'm not going to ask you about it. I just wanted to throw it out there so I can be the first in the media to mention that one in case it comes down to it.
We're sending Beau to every game in the NCAA tournament. That's what we're doing.
Yeah, well, my concern with Houston is just the same level I had with Illinois. When they decide to turn it up, the level of athleticism, top to bottom, is a different level. So, and they didn't have their full complement of players. It didn't look like to me against Iowa State. But
well, Beau, you mentioned Illinois. That's kind of where I wanted to go with leading into Friday. Do you think that the way the Big Ten tournament ended for Nebraska could be a positive? The way you really played well against Illinois, were in control of that game for a little bit, you let it slip away, and maybe that's some extra motivation for this upcoming week of practices if you didn't already have enough with the athletic director drama. Do you think that the way that the Big Ten tournament ended could end up being a positive for Nebraska in an NCAA tournament run?
Yeah, I just remember getting done on Sunday in the Big 8 tournament against Missouri by the time you get home and get through, everyone's saying, hey, you guys had a great run. Now it's time for the NCAA tournament. It's 10 o'clock at night. And then you practice Monday and Tuesday, and you go to Minneapolis on Wednesday, and then you play the 10 o'clock game on Thursday. I just remember being exhausted. And I like the fact that they got an extra day of rest. Wilcher gets to get healthy. Hopefully Alec gets to get his knee okay. And we get plenty of rest before we play on Friday. We have 2 extra days that some teams don't get. I think that bodes well for us because look how well we played against Indiana with a little rest. So I like our draw. I like the rest. I like the game we're playing at 6:50. We played that time against Indiana, and we lit it up. So I just think, this whole thing sets up well for us. We should play well. I'm looking forward to it.
Beau Reid with us, Hail Varsity Radio. Beau, thought here on Keesey and the stage. There's already buzz about him. When you look at CBS's coverage and how on fire he was against Illinois. I should say against Indiana. Illinois saw that movie in Champaign and kind of made sure they clamped down on him. What will Keesey Mania look like in Memphis? What could it look like against A&M?
I don't know. I think if Bryce Williams comes out and plays the way he did the first 10 minutes of the game against Indiana, it doesn't matter what Keesey does. We're going to win because everything kind of flows from Bryce. He gets other people involved. When he's assertive offensively, and I thought he kind of needed to be more in the second half against Illinois, he didn't really assert himself till we were down 10 or 11 there late, and then he scored 2 straight baskets. He needs to play well. If Casey's all that we've got, he's pretty easy to stop if you don't have to worry about all the other parts because you just switch screens on him. You don't let him curl off of them, and you basically just say, you're not going to beat us. But when Rink is making 3-point shots in that high pick and roll, if Bryce can isolate when the shot clock gets low and go get a basket, a mid-range jump shot, an open three, all of a sudden Casey becomes exponentially more dangerous because then you can't double team him. You can't game plan your whole game plan around him because we got 4 other guys that can light you up. So, yeah, the media loves Casey. He had 23 points against Indiana, but the player of the game for me was Bryce because we came out tight. And the game was close early, and he lifted us. He scored 13 of our first 18 points and acted like an all-Big Ten guard. And Casey then, kind of got loose in that little stretch, at the end of the first half. He went electric, and he can do that. But the reason he was able to do that is because they had to deal with Bryce Williams. And so we need everybody playing well for Casey to be at full effectiveness. I think if it's just Casey, you can game plan for him. And I'm not trying to diminish what that kid does because, I think he's a coach's nightmare. He takes shots that you just go, no, and then they go in and the place goes berserk, and then all of a sudden there's momentum and people are going crazy, and you're like, holy cow, that actually worked out. But if he misses that shot, we just got the lead to 6. We kind of need a basket, and he turns one loose from deep, and it's a long rebound. They get a dunk at the other end. It's, he's one of those guys that the fans love, and when it's going well, he's electrifying, and he just gets the place going on another level. I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of Nebraska people this game, so if he can get a couple of those things going early and get these guys on their heel, he will be fun to watch. And the tournament seems poised to make him their darling, so I hope he delivers. But honestly, if Bryce and if Gary stays out of foul trouble, if Bryce plays like he's been, and we can get Rink, to kind of maintain it throughout the whole game, we're going to have a really good chance.
It's Beau Reid, Husker Hall of Famer. He is in Memphis. We are going to designate him our Hail Varsity correspondent in Memphis. Give some barbecue, get a beer, get a win. Beau Reid. Beau will check in soon. Thanks for a few minutes today.
Thanks, guys. I really appreciate you having me. And we'll check in.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Thanks for hanging out. Big thanks to Beau Reid, Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, Connor Clark, Hail Varsity on a Monday. Lots of football and hoops to talk, hoops and football. Justin with the stat to make Nebraska fans smile. A&M's allowed 300 threes, one of the worst. Nebraska's hit 317. I like them odds. Good for you, Justin. Hope Nebraska is ready to rock and roll. You can be ready because you got to get locked in, signed up, the Hail Varsity Radio Bracket Challenge, Elijah. That's on the Twitter handle.
Yeah. So that is on the Hail Varsity Radio Twitter. I think Schmidt has it on his Twitter, and I have it on my Twitter as well. If you'd like to join, you don't have Twitter. It's also in the chat of today's Hail Varsity show on YouTube. So pull up YouTube.
We going to give away the
show.
Texas mug, or are we going to actually give away a Hail Varsity mug?
I need to get my hands on one of these new Hail Varsity mugs before we promise that I can give it away. But that is the goal.
Allegedly, it exists out there.
That is the goal. I think currently your odds are pretty good. We have just over 20 people in there. Obviously, still a long time coming this week, so hope you get some more people in there. But
a lot of smart people waiting for the play-in games to be.
To get
those should be free.
Really?
Yes. I mean, quite frankly.
Oh, well, the 16 games, yeah.
Well, any of them. I mean, if you're in Dayton, sorry.
Well, here's the thing: if you're picking the play-in games, if you're like waiting to see those, is the 16 seed going to upset the 1 seed?
Landing in the Final
I'm talking about
Four?
like the 10 seeds that are playing each other.
Yeah, because you've got Virginia and Colorado State,
and then you got Boise State, and I forget who they're playing.
Well, can I just say this?
Exactly.
But Boise State shouldn't be there is my gripe.
You think they should be in?
Yeah.
I don't think any 10 seed should be playing in a play-in game.
It's
personally.
the first. I think it's the first time
11s.
ever.
No. Well, it used to be 11s, but I think it should just be the 16 seeds. Let's punish those teams that are in the terrible small basketball conferences that don't do anything anyway. Yeah, make them earn their way in. Why don't we make a team in a Power 5 earn their way in? I'm being serious, kind of. I know I'm being really harsh.
You're just bitter about.
I'm being harsh
like everybody
about it.
else when the 16 took down a Purdue and the 16 took down a Virginia because it was immediately let's take our bracket to the shredder.
Yeah, I'm just saying a lot of teams that win in the play-in game go on to win their first round game.
UCLA went on that run a couple years ago where they were in the play-in and they ended up making it all the way
11
to the
seed.
They were
Final Four with the mighty Mick Cronin.
Yeah, they went through the playing game. I remember being mad about that one because I picked them to make it to the Sweet 16, and then I stopped picking UCLA in my bracket, and I was mad because I felt like the smartest man in the country for like 2 weeks, and then they keep on going, and I picked against them, and I was disappointed. But.
Let's hear a little bit from Matt Rhule today, and just programming note, come see us Thursday as Madness gets tipped off on Thursday. We are on the road. We are in Gretna. Just off the highway in Gretna at the Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill in Gretna. Awesome pizza shop there, man. Get a slice, get some Bang Bang sauce, 4 to 6. We'll be here, Connor. We will bring you a doggy bag.
I'll take it.
Okay.
Well, and let's not also forget, I've been working on this one all day. Ready for this one? So, Texas A&M, they're going to have a buzz on Friday in Buzz Williams. You want a buzz? Come on down to the Ameristar Council Bluffs. Come see Schmidt and myself.
That was a knee slapper.
Get yourself a buzz.
That was too hard.
Grab a couple beers. Maybe lock in a bet.
No,
come see us.
Get the buzzworthy parlay.
Oh, that's better, Dan.
Right?
I worked on that all day, and you already got me.
Just get the kiosk signed up for and go win some money. Take care of Mama with your Big Red winnings or whatever else you like. But, yeah, we're at Ameristar Friday, 4 to 6, just across the river, and should be an awesome time. We appreciate our friends at Penn Gaming, Penn Sports, for having us out on Friday, day 2 of the tournament, day 1 of the Friday session. And we'll be right there up right before tip with Nebraska A&M round 1, Nebraska A&M round 2. Let's hear from Matt Rhule. Matt Rhule had a job to do today, and that job was to calm some waters. And as an excellent communicator, Matt Rhule did just that. He was able to, I think, put a lot of Nebraska fans at ease. And a little bit here from Matt Rhule here. And I want to go here, cut 6. And this is what Nebraska fans needed to hear. We'll kind of purse through some of the things, very little on spring football in the 37-minute chat. A lot of it was about Trev and reaction that way, and Rhule, his opening comments were 12 minutes. I mean, he headed things off at the pass, so to speak, with his feelings and his thoughts. But if you're worried about Matt Rhule's future, he put an end to that as he is excited to be in Lincoln.
I've gotten kind of frustrated in the last couple of days as national people have called me and, hey, what's your contract situation like? And I'm here, and I'm all in, and Julie's all in. And, yeah, I loved Ted Carter, I love Trev, and I came because of them, but I came to be at the University of Nebraska, and I've loved the people that I've met, and we're not going anywhere unless you guys kick us out. And so I just want to make sure that I spend my time talking about everything that is right, and the last part of that is our team. This team has come so far in these 8 weeks. I mean, the problems that existed last year aren't the problems now. And the team's adjusting to me because I'm becoming a different Coach Rhule, and we're getting a different Tony White now because we're going to give our players the gift of high expectations. We snuck up maybe on people sometimes this year, like, the Huskers. Well, they're going to be ready for us next year. They're going to be ready for the 3-3-5. They're going to be ready for, the players that we have. And so we are pushing them and driving them. And what I love is they're accepting it and they're sprinting and they're running and they're working. And this is going to be an unbelievably competitive spring ball. If we've done one thing well, we've put a lot of talent on the roster. And I'm really, really proud of them. And I don't tell them that very often. I'm not a fuzzy, feely type of a coach. So it's important that they hear it. I'm proud of them. And the thing that separates the good from the great in I believe in today's generation is their ability to handle frustration. Think about when we were young and there was nothing to do and parents would let us watch TV. We'd go do something, right? Where our kids, they're on an iPad nowadays. They're on their phone. They're doing something, and there's just not a lot of frustration in their everyday lives. And so can we handle frustration? Can we handle it when our coach is really getting on our nerves? Can we handle it when the stakes are high? Can we handle it when we have to do something we really don't want to do? The team keeps answering that, yes, yes, yes. So we're going to push them like crazy in a spring ball and see where we end up.
Well done, well put, authentic, sincere. He's here. Yep, two folks really connected with him to help convince him to not take a year off. You ask Coach Barnett, you ask a lot of other programs that had openings, and the first and second answer was, no, I'm good. I'm good. I'm going to take the year off.
Well, I mean, think about what Trev walked into at Temple and Baylor. Like, the alarm bells aren't going off for him on this, I don't think. I think he's probably disappointed.
Mm-hmm. And
I think he's probably disappointed, but like
verbalize that.
Compare it to his disasters at Baylor in the athletic department, his disasters at Temple in the athletic department. Like, this is nothing compared to that.
We'll hear a little bit more from Matt Rhule on the traits that make a good leader and traits that he'd like, because he was asked about it by Sam McEwen, traits that make a good AD. We'll hear that next, so hang tight. Still about 10 minutes for you to get in at 489-1240. Maybe some signaling with, I don't know, a name out there. Lots of talk about watering and investment, and Paul Harvey's God Made a Farmer. He was asked about that. Well, if you want to grow, if you want to earn, you got to spend money to make money. Well, there's some money Nebraska could spend on their next AD.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Well, Todd emails in, how the hell do you not know when you're getting cut off from commercials, but always know when you're coming back from one? Todd, we're working on that. Apparently he's listening up north, up yonder. So apologies, Todd. We're looking at the same clock we've always been looking at. Technical. And technically speaking, Matt Rhule laid out who he wants for his next AD. Was asked about it. Traits for leadership, cut 8.
Yeah, I really want somebody who has unbelievable urgency. This is like one of the most pivotal. We spend a lot of time talking about like the transfer portal and NIL. This is one of the most pivotal times in college athletics, and we just need doers. You know what I mean? We need doers. We need people who just figure it out and work. And so, I love the fact in Trev that I had an athletic director that was here, at 7 o'clock, 7:30 every morning in a suit and tie. He was a worker. Pat Kraft, who I worked with at Temple's now at Penn State, was a worker. They were right there with you. So I think what we need is somebody that's going to come in and just get things done. And again, they have to be really mentally strong, because when you come to a place that has as big a brand as Nebraska that people are so passionate about and care about, when you do something, A lot of people are going to like it. Some people aren't going to like it. And if you're listening to the outside noise, you have no chance. So I'm just hoping that it's somebody that's a worker, a doer. And I also want someone, Sam, that's going to go fight. Okay, go fight in the committees in the NCAA, to go fight in the Big Ten. Like I could say, because I'm the football coach, I'm mad we're playing Texas A&M both games. Because now the games are about the AD leaving. It's not about our players. Our players deserve it, the games to be about us. And so, I think having somebody that's not going to just go quietly into the night, that's a doer, that's a worker. I think that's what we need to really take what we have and get it on overdrive.
And I know that Sam McEwen's the one who asked that question, and Sam McEwen's the one he's directly talking to in that answer, but he's not talking to Sam McEwen. He's talking to the Board of Regents. He's talking to Governor Pillen. You can hear it in there. That's not a list of wants. That's almost a list of demands.
Well, and he's not coming across hostile.
No.
But what name did he say? Pat Kraft. And if I'm Nebraska and I was bumping Trev to 1.7, and I'm Pat Kraft out there, doubling your salary to 1.7 because he's shy of $850 at Penn State. I mean, it's not the first time he mentioned Pat Kraft's name.
I love how subtly he hinted at him and said that he was currently at Penn State in there as well. Seems like he tried to say it extra fast.
Well, I mean, it's there. There's a name. We've had the list of names for AD, and there's one that will assure you that there's same page, like-mindedness, and comfortability, because it's worked before. It's worked before, and it's worked well. And Rhule said he's here. He's all in for Nebraska. That's what the state, that's what the football fan base needed to hear today, and he is right now all in to get things flipped around. Reminder to get buckled up. Use your seatbelt. It saves lives. It prevents injuries. Only if properly worn. Make it click. A message from the NDOT Highway Safety Office. There's Elaine dancing in Seinfeld. Then there's Trev Alberts doing the Gig'em sway at his presser. What's Charlie McBride think? Mr. Blackshirt's next. Hour 2 with Hail Varsity, powered by Cornhead Lager.
This is Christian Peter. I'm sorry, but the stories I have about Charlie are not appropriate for the public.
The right case of the Mondays. It's Mr. Blackshirt, Charlie McBride, on Hail Varsity Radio.
Back with you, it's Hour 2. It's Hail Varsity, powered by Cornhead Lager. Plenty of football and tournament talk as we say hi to Mr. Blackshirt on Monday with Charlie, Coach Charlie McBride. Coach, how was the weekend? How you doing?
Good. The weather's getting stinky again. A little bit of snow, and below freezing. So, you knew it when that nice weather wasn't going to last.
No, it is fleeting, and it's winter time here before we jump into spring. And I wanted to start off before we get your thoughts on Husker basketball and spring football. Matt Rhule talked today. You're a player. You coached him. You've known him for years. Need to get your reaction. Folks want to hear from Coach McBride on Trev Alberts' decision to leave.
Well, it really broke my heart to see him leave. I mean, I didn't expect anything like that. I'm not there close to the situation at all, but the thing is that, when you have a person that has done everything that he can do to better himself and the university all through his whole career, I would know and as a friend and always will be. Mm-hmm. And no matter what happens, I mean, I consider myself, when I left, I played at another school just, west of us, and it was hard for me to do that. And I know that this is going to be hard for Trev even tonight as the basketball goes on, and I'm sure in his heart he has some reservations just because he's a good person. There's no hard feelings, and I would never make a decision on him myself unless I talked to him and knew exactly what went on. And it's really none of my business, and I would never even ask him. I don't think if he wanted to tell me and I talked to him and that was the case, then that would be fine. But I just think that there's more to it than a lot of people think, and it's not just a thing where he just walked out the door. There's something behind it. I really believe, and I saw him every Saturday lay it on the line for us and for the university, for us, and as a teammate, coaches. And not only that, but he was the true student athlete in the country by the National Football Foundation. I mean, he was a great student, and all of those things he did when he was at Nebraska. And and he would not just take a hike because of money. That I don't believe any of that. Mm-hmm. That part, I think there are a lot of people when they don't have much money and will move because of money to help their family better, Mm-hmm. But I don't think he was that was his move. The problem that I see in the whole thing is that I've been through this Texas deal with A&M and Texas, and that's going to be created. And A&M's a school that has got probably the biggest endowment there is in the country, number one, and it's a tough job. He's in a tougher job than he had at the university because there's a lot of people with a lot of money that want things done their way, and all of the hate and things is real down there. Mm. And that's kind of a tough thing. I think will be a tough thing for him.
Coach McBride, is it tough to exist in Nebraska? When I ask this politically, you just laid out a challenge at Texas A&M, right? The way I think about it, there's about 500 J.R. Ewings down there that all want to be known as the man, right? I give so much money. Sure. I have so much oil money. I'm painting a broad brush, but they all want to be in that inner circle. When it comes to Nebraska, Is it tough to navigate and get things done the way you want to get things done that you truly believe is best for the university / athletic department? Is it tough to live life in Lincoln?
It's tough because let me just give you an example of back in the SMU days, because I think some of that in relation is continued. Mm. They all have different country clubs, and all those people belong to country clubs, and they all sit in the locker room. And Joe from Texas, and the other guy from A&M, and this guy from another school, they say, so and so, we're recruiting some. And we're going to get him, and that's their personal feelings. It's not the school, it's them. They're going to go get him. They're going to pay him whatever he needs to do to get to that school. And people think, well, that's a bunch of baloney. But in those days, back then, that's what happened. And I mean, a lot of it happened that way. I talked to coaches that I know very well that were on that staff to this day, they would come out and tell me, Charlie, don't even recruit him. We're going to buy the kid. And I mean, that's, you hear that from a friend, a guy that that knows you well, and you hear that, and you just hope that isn't still going on. But believe it or not, it probably is in some avenues that probably still going on, but I think it's probably eased up a little. But you're right. When you have a lot of people with a lot of money, and they've given a lot of money to that school, and look at the people that are going to be paying the last coach off. You think the university's going to pay him off? And you can go to Michigan, and you can look in the coaches, when I came here to the state of Michigan, I had no idea that the school wasn't paying these guys. It was the families, trust funds of families that put you in the $1 million range. It's not the school that's going to come up with $1 million plus. It's somebody else, and they had coaches that were told, and it was in their program what family was, they were associated with. So that's the same thing that goes on down there that we don't see as much of at Nebraska. If we may see some, but it's very. I think it's pretty light. Very light compared to what goes on in the whole Southeast Conference. There's people with money that just that's their whole deal, is to help the university athletic department or the whatever department they're for. There's a lot of money put out.
Charlie, what is your reaction to the NCAA selection committee going and pitting Nebraska against Texas A&M, given all this drama that there's already been within the past week? What's your reaction to that?
You mean as far as what now? I mean, is it tonight as far as the game?
Well, just
basketball.
In basketball on Friday in the NCAA tournament. Do you like the NCAA pitting Nebraska against Texas A&M given the past week? Do you hate it? What's your reaction to that?
Well, when I saw this last night, when the girls are playing A&M and so are the men, I'm wondering what the heck's going on. I mean, is this has everybody said, well, let's put these two together and let's see them go at each other or something? I don't have any answer to any of that stuff because I don't even know, but it sounds kind of weird. Well, that's the way it ended up.
For one night, the NCAA, the C stands for comedy, I guess.
Yeah, I'm confused. I'm confused about their whole what they're doing now. I don't hear student athlete anymore. I just hear, the rules that we're under now are the rules that they put SMU on probation for, and eliminated their whole football program. I mean, we're ahead of the pros. These guys can go where they want to go tomorrow, and the pro guys can't even do that.
Yeah, it's a different world. It's a different world for sure. Matt Rhule spoke today, and he just nailed it. I think he put a lot of calm back into the fan base. The worry was about Rhule and his future with the guys that hired him moving on. But a thought from you, Coach McBride, on Matt Rhule and just what Nebraska has leadership-wise in him.
Well, I think Trev hired him, and I think Trev, I think that there's always some talk about if I do this and if I do that, we want you to be part of this program. And I think there was a little bit of that going on, even when there were some questions going back and forth before they Rhule even got the job.
Yeah.
I think, a lot of those questions were answered, because it's a possibility of anybody picking up and going. I mean, you never know the answer to all that stuff. It can happen overnight, and that a little bit, that's what happened, I think, overnight. Now, I do know one thing, and I've always questioned it myself, is that I know how Trev thought about Ted Carter. I know how much he helped him get going at UNO. I know how he depended on him for a lot of the answers, and I still have some kind of a feeling that Ted was involved in this a little bit, not as far as telling him, giving him some advice, but not telling him what to do.
Right.
But I think that I think there was a lot of that done in the hiring of Rhule when he, and which is understandable. The president's always going to have be part of it. I don't care what anybody says. You can say, well, I'm the AD and I hired him and all this. You don't hire anybody unless it's the Board of Regents and the president and everybody else behind you. And so I think, that he spent some time with Ted, talking to him and getting some advice. Whatever the situation is that made him move. Mm-hmm. I don't think Ted made the decision for him, the final decision, but I think he did because he's done it before. He's helped them so much along the way that I think he depended on Ted's advice.
Coach, as a coach currently at Nebraska,
never know, but I don't hear people talking about that. But that's just what what I think about it. That's. You think he made it himself. I think he made the decision himself, but I think he got some advice from other people before he did that.
Coach, as Matt Rhule and Fred Hoiberg currently kind of navigate this, especially with the reaction of the players of the men's basketball team last night that we saw on the selection show, as a head coach, how do you handle what's happened over the past couple of days with your players? Because clearly they all know what's happening. So how do you handle that going forward?
Well, I think that I don't know the answer to it really, but I do know the answer that I think the players and the coaches and the assistants can all solve that problem. I think when you go to a school, I didn't come to Nebraska as a coach because Bob Devaney was here. Mm. I came here because Tom was here. Mm. And I think the players came here because this coaching staff were the people that they're going to depend on. And I think that there's a lot, maybe too much emphasis put on the fact that, that he's has something to do with whether they come or they go. I will say this, that I still believe, and I'm watching what happened with talking to kids here, at the schools around here, that there was this saying one time that the university, and usually it's that of the school like Michigan or Nebraska or Notre Dame, that athletics is a doorstep to the university. Mm. And I think when we won our first national championship, I even heard that we sold more T-shirts and more stuff from Nebraska than Michigan did, who has a business doing it. I mean, their athletic department, we had a regular business to sell on stuff. And so, it's just, the whole thing can turn into a circus if you want it to. And believe me, I'll tell you this. There are times when the press has, and it's proven, has made things up or said things to keep the story going and to keep it on, keep it up. We got a lot to write about. Here's something we can really let's keep it going. And so sometimes some press can, and I know a lot of times it's just the editor, I think, but it can really hurt a university. And I think if you talk to Tom Ash someday and find out his story in the long run, that he stayed with the university and said, I'm not going to write that, and they fired him.
Charlie McBride's with us.
That it can go that way too with a lot of stuff, and can be exaggerated.
Coach, we'll get caught up next Monday and see if there's a couple of wins for the Big Red. Thanks for the time today.
There will be.
All right.
There will be. Okay, thanks for having me. I'll talk to you next week.
See you, Coach.
All-State, 2-year starter, and rush in for the Big Red and NFL vet.
Is Dudeness or Duder or, El Duderino if you're not into the whole brevity thing.
It's Blackshirt Jay Moore with Hail Varsity Radio.
Baseball.
Back into it, it's Hail Varsity, powered by Cornhead Lager. The Blackshirt Hour continues. Jay Moore with us, Blackshirt Husker NFLer at JMoore44, co-host Big Red Wrap-Up. Jay Bird, it's been a week since we last talked to you, and plenty of thoughts, I'm sure, as your wheels turned with the Trev news and Nebraska doing their job with the NCAA Tournament. We'll start with the Trev reaction. Had his presser today down in Aggie land, and Nebraska fans still shocked, although Rhule calmed some waters today.
Yeah, I mean, obviously caught me off guard. I think it caught everyone off guard. I mean, got off a call, Wednesday morning, and I had 10 text messages like, what the hell? And I'm like, what do you mean? I have no idea. So obviously go check out Twitter or X and social media and just speculation, what it could be. Then obviously just, 6-7 hours later, the news is final and it's complete. So you start doing your due diligences and think, what is the reason for this? And there's so many different aspects to it. But I mean, overall, I think Trev just wants a commissioner job. I think that's truly what this has come down to. I think he wants to be the next commissioner of the SEC Big Ten. Whatever you want to call it. It's not like a master conference, or it's just the merger, of the two. I mean, not even a merger, but just that scenario. He wants to oversee that, and I don't fault him for that. Obviously, it's very frustrating when you put yourself out there and you say certain things, how this is the best, job and I want to be here. Then obviously, maybe he reached out about the Big Ten commissioner job. Maybe he reached out about the playoff committee commissioner job. But if that's what he wants, that's what he wants. And that's what he wants to do. I don't fault him for that. I don't like the way it went down. It seems like it was kind of similar to other careers and job titles he's had in the past. Very similar. But listen, I wish him nothing but the best. And to be honest, I mean, this is the first time I've talked publicly about it. It's one of those scenarios where there's a reason why you have 2 ears and one mouth, type of situation. And then, immediately I was concerned about Matt, just because, President Carter here, Trev being here, obviously those two guys brought him in here. He's not here. I think that situation's, as you alluded to already, has been calmed. But you just got to go out and get a president now, and you go get an AD, and you get the right ones that matches with everyone's vision, everyone's what they want, their goals, and that's hard. There's a lot of people in the athletic director's office. You got board of regents, you got all these people, but you got to find a guy that has similar views and aspirations and goals as Coach Rhule, Coach Hoiberg, Cook, Bolt. You just go down the list of all the coaches and people in that administration that have similar views and want to accomplish the same things. So I know it's been talked about in depth and tirelessly, and just kind of is what it is now. And I've moved on. I'm ready to, looking forward to Friday, watching some basketball, watching both men's and women's team play, and looking forward to getting spring ball going and putting this whole situation behind us, because we got bigger things ahead of us to tackle at the University of Nebraska than a former player and an AD leaving. And he has his agenda, and we have ours here at Nebraska, and it's just not going to include Trev anymore. So it just kind of is what it is.
With all that in mind, Jay, do you love or hate the Texas A&M matchup with the Nebraska men's and women's team? I've seen it both ways. I've seen love. I've seen hate. I haven't seen anyone lukewarm. Everyone's got a reaction. What is yours?
I mean, it's one thing when it was us, and there was, even before this was coming out, this happened, there was talks of potentially a 7-10 matchup in Omaha with A&M. So there was that. And they do it. And then they do it to the women's team. And they're like, okay, we know what you're doing here. You want to have some fun with it. Yeah, maybe they could have put us in the same bracket with Iowa State as well, with the Hoibergs, with that kind of matchup there too. But I honestly don't I don't love it. I'm kind of lukewarm on it as well. I think that the sad thing is I think, the basketball team hit on this yesterday afternoon is once the matchups were announced it's not about, unfortunately, it's not about the basketball team and the players. It's more about Nebraska versus Trev in this situation, which it is what it is, right? You're going to deal with that. People in this day and age, people want to love, bringing up the drama and doing those things. But, man, I just want what's best for this each, the men's and women's. I want the men to go out and get their first NCAA tournament win. I want them to be able to play Houston or whoever that, on Sunday and have a chance to advance. This basketball team is so fun to watch and so talented. And I just want them to have their moment, in the sun here and not have to worry about where their former AD went. And, they're playing the basketball team where he went. And that's obviously going to be a topic of discussion up until Friday. But once this thing tips off, it's just going to be about A&M basketball and Nebraska basketball. And you kind of, people can take what they want with it and twist it and turn it into whatever it is, man. But I'm ready to be done with it all. I am. It's been, the horse is dead. It's just, I'm sure in your guys' world, it's giving you something to discuss. Not like you've had a shortage of it by any means. But I'm just ready to. I want Nebraska to win. I don't care how it is. If it's by 30, if it's by 1, I don't care. Just want them to win, get their first. Obviously, talking about the men's team getting their first win and moving on to play on Sunday. But I know a lot of people are having fun with this, and I'm tired of it, to be honest.
Jay, as someone who's been in and around the university for a very long time, and I know mostly on the football side, what does it feel like to you seeing Nebraska's name get called for just the second time since 1998 yesterday? What is that feeling kind of for you and really for anybody else that's been in and around the university for quite some time?
Well, it's big. I've watched Nebraska basketball as long as I've watched Nebraska football. I remember those years, with, Beau Reid and Eric Pikowski and, King and all these, these players from, the early 90s and the Big 8 days. Because, Schmidt can attest to this, man. There was nothing better than Big 8 basketball.
It was awesome.
Just the coaches. And the Phillips 66 game of the week and all that kind of stuff that happened back in the day. And,
coaches hated each other.
Yeah, playing Norm Stewart and the Mizzou Tigers on a Saturday afternoon, or Roy Williams in Kansas, and you just, Kelvin Sampson in Oklahoma, and I think there was a coach even before Kelvin.
Yeah, Billy the Comb-Over.
There you go. You just go down the list of all, Iowa State, and it was fun, man. And I remember those days, and obviously few and far in between, right? Then you have that, that 14, that team gets hot and they catch fire. They don't finish off the year very strong. Lose to Michigan Ohio State in the Big Ten tournament, and then lose to Baylor. In that one, I think it was a 10-7 matchup in that one, and I remember Timmy Miles getting kicked out of that one. The refereeing wasn't up to standards, which I definitely agreed with. And we've had, I think 18 was close. That team was very, very close to making it, but it just seems like they're kind of, I think last year, the way they finished it out, they kind of seemed like they were turning the corner. Fred's kind of adopted a new system, play defense. Yeah, get some guys that transfer, but build your depth from within. And it's carried over to this year. You had multiple guys come back. You've had new additions this year, and the defense has been really, really good. The offense has been outstanding, and I just foresee this. Just hopefully, it's started something big to where, this is the standard, right? Is being in the top half, the top 6-7 teams of the Big Ten every year. Maybe you don't get into the 4, but guess what? You win a game or a couple games every year in the Big Ten, and you have a chance. And you're up there in Selection Sunday to have a chance, whether you're an automatic, at large, or, maybe you just have a chance, right? And I think that's always what you want, is just having a chance to to make the tournament. And for decades, I mean, in many, many years, you haven't had a chance. There was zero chance unless you won the Big Ten tournament. So it's fun. It just feels like it's finally turning the corner, and I just like the trajectory of the program.
Few minutes here, Jay Moore with us, Hail Varsity Radio, Blackshirt Husker NFLer. Jay Moore at JMoore44, co-host Big Red Wrap-Up. Jay going to go to spring football, and Coach Rhule was complimentary, even though he's not overly complimentary publicly to his team. He said he was proud of him. You've talked at times in your career making that jump from contributor to playmaker. Are you confident Nebraska's got guys ready to make that jump so it's not just a bowl team next year? It could maybe be even a little more.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, the biggest question mark is quarterback. Mm-hmm. And I think he addressed that and talked about Dylan a little bit. And I still, I'd be surprised if Dylan's not QB1, August 31st against UTEP. But that has to play it out. You got to go through spring ball and see how things go. And I mean, Harburg, he's doesn't have the pedigree that Dylan has, but what Henrik has is the ability he has live game reps. And I always have talked about having that ability to have those live bullet reps, and that's tough to duplicate. Have that comfort, have that just being comfortable in those situations and knowing how you handle those situations. It's one thing to do it in practice, but to do it in a game. I know the offense was changed a little bit with him, but I think going forward, it's you have 3 quarterbacks on the team right now, and 2 of them are freshmen, and one's a guy that's played in 8 games last year. So that's obviously my biggest question mark now. But you look the rest of offensively, you got some good wide receiver talent brought in via the portal. You have offensive linemen that are back that played a ton of snaps. The running back situation has got cleaned up. Hopefully, you got to get guys healthy. Guys got beat up, but you brought some guys in from the transfer portal on that end as well. Tight end, plenty of talent in the tight end room. I'd like to see Fedoni take a step forward this next year, and I believe he can. Just this first year playing off of injuries. Then you switch to defense, and that's what held this team together last year. And I mean, they got everyone coming back for the most part. Others, than the linebackers, Newsome as well. But with Robinson and Hutchmacher and the young guys that played Princewell, a lot of these true freshmen that played last year a lot. Those guys can take another huge step. So. You got some guys at linebacker have to step up and replace 2 guys that played really, really well and at a high level. But this is going from year 1 to year 2 under the staff. This is just in everyone in general. It's just not really about a position group or one side of the ball, but going from year 1 to year 2 with a new staff that's where huge leaps and bounds can be made. You have so much more familiarity with verbiage and what the expectations, right? And now you can almost kind of get down to that smaller detail, that fine detailed stuff that might have cost you some games, by obviously 3 points like it did towards the end of the year. You can really start fine detailing some things because the big picture is kind of been established. That foundation has been established. Now you can start kind of picking things out and really what you want, right? And that's the fun part that they're going to go through in this spring, and all their installs are going to be 10 times faster than what they were last spring. They'll be, I'm sure, what they installed in the first week last year in spring ball, they'll probably be able to get done the first practice or the first day or maybe in the first 2 days, just because of the familiarity with everything. So you're going to see a nice jump up for everyone. And it's coaches as well. Coaches know how guys respond, and you got to know how you coach them in certain situations. And I'm just excited for it. I'm excited about the trajectory again of this program, and it's right there in front of them, man. It is so right there in front of them with the schedule and everyone that's coming back, and just feels like, even though with the stuff that happened last week, it feels this football program is. I like where they're at currently, and I'm excited to see the product they put out there in April for the spring game, and then going forward into the summer.
Jay, the most intriguing storyline in your eyes is what? Obviously, the easy answer is Dylan Rhule. Is that where you go? Is there anything else you look at in terms of spring storylines?
Man, I think the easy one, is quarterback, just because that's the most important position in football. So it always will, and always has and always will be. So I think the development of Dylan, I see where Harvard kind of fits in. Do they potentially bring a quarterback in after spring ball to get you another guy on the roster, something like that? Because going in with 3, and 2 of them are true freshmen, another one being Kalen from Bell West, I mean, that's tough, right? You got to have some depth. And you see, we saw it last year, just going through injuries, and Purdy, being the third guy to play. So I think that's a very easy storyline. But I think the big storylines for me is, I think we know what we saw defensively, but are we going to see what this offense wants to be? I think there's been a lot of reference to the San Francisco 49ers offense, where they call them positionless players, right? A Christian McCaffrey can play running back, wide receiver, utilizing the passing game. Deebo Samuel very much so can be a wide receiver, utilize him in the run game. Tight ends, Kittle, you can split them out, do all sorts of things. So it's you kind of say, okay, I see some pictures to that puzzle that they have. I can see a Fedoni being that Kittle, a guy that you can line up at wide receiver and do some things. A Ramir Johnson type of situation, if he comes back healthy, things you can do with him, and Gabe Ervin coming back healthy, things you can do with him. So I kind of wanted to see what this exactly looks like, because once Sims got banged up and wasn't able to play to the level that we all expected him to play at, things changed. I don't think Satterfield and Rhule came in here wanting to run sprint option, with Harburg, but they had to do it to be competitive. So I want to see if everything falls into plan health-wise, what exactly this offense is going to look like. And it'd be fantastic if it looked like the 49ers, because that's a hell of an offense. And I love the way Kyle Shanahan and he's able to do it, obviously with the weapons he has. But again, it starts up front. You got to have a great offensive line. Everyone's got to stay healthy, but just kind of see exactly what this staff wants this offense to be is another a fun headline to discuss.
Jay, 90 seconds, prediction, well out. What happens Friday night?
Man, I think it's a hell of a ball game. One thing that concerns me is A&M's one of the best offensive rebounding teams in the country. Obviously, we've been killed in a few games this year on that side, but they don't defend a 3 well, and they don't shoot it well. So I think that gives us the edge. Early lines are 1.5, 2 points, maybe 2.5. Oh man, gut tells me we get it done.
Okay.
It tells me we get it done. I think this team they're pissed that they lost to Illinois. You saw the frustration. So I think they're going to take that, and I think they know. I think that the team's mature enough to attack this and approach it the right way. I don't think it's going to be the scene is going to be too big for them. And I can't wait, man. 5:50 Friday night can't come quick enough.
Jay Moore, Blackshirt Husker NFLer. He'll have his high top Adidas on and probably a tank top with a headband. So Jay Bird will check in next week. Always appreciate your candor, man.
Yep, you got it, guys. Thank you.
And now,
back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Elijah's in full bracket research mode during the commercial break. You can log on, Hail Varsity Radio Twitter handle at HVarsity Radio. Get signed up with the Hail Varsity Radio Bracket Challenge. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, Connor Clark. I'm embarrassed for my Final Four, and I'm embarrassed for my Final Two.
Can't be as embarrassing as McNeese State's non-conference schedule, in which
they
took down the Mississippi University for Women 92-23. Apparently, the Mississippi University for Women has a men's basketball team. That makes no sense. I mean, I love McNeese State this year, especially that draw against Kansas. What a money draw.
Everyone's hating on KU, and KU will get their revenge. This is the anti-bracket. You want to be against KU.
I just cannot.
They're just not KU.
No, but if they're healthy, if Mr. Miyagi rolls into the locker room and away you go. It's trendy to jump all over KU. Now we're going to burn this tape a week from today. Possibly. Programming note, come see us Thursday. You want to get out, you're feeling a little down, allergies or air quote bothering you. That's okay. We will be at the Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill just off the highway in Gretna. So come see us 4 to 6 Thursday during the madness. We'll be in Gretna at the Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill this Thursday. Friday, across the river, Council Bluffs, as we were at the Ameristar, probably next to an Emeritus, but Ameristar, Ameristar Sports Casino Sportsbook, where we're going to be posting up and get your bets in with your friends at Ameristar and Penn Gaming. Appreciate them for having us as we are on the road live 4 to 6, Ameristar Sportsbook in Council Bluffs. Again, Penn Gaming, the good folks there. Excited to be on the road and get it tipped off because Nebraska goes at 5:50. We wrap up right around that time, so should be a good old day. Double dip in Nebraska v. A&M. And do we have time for more Coach Rhule? Probably not. Running tightly against the shot clock here, Connor, I assume, but a lot of good stuff. Tomorrow's show. Be sure to check us out. We'll have Mitch Sherman with us in the 4 o'clock hour. Eddie Markowski, the pride of Ord, joins the show. Husker standout. Get his thoughts on both brackets for the men and the women. And then Matt Schick of ESPN, Schick and Nick. Mr. Schick will join us, get his take on all the things that have transpired. Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, where you can download the podcast, give us a review. Good, bad, or ugly, we'll take it. And also give us a follow with the Hail Varsity YouTube channel. Like and subscribe. That way you can watch the show or get caught up on your time. At Herbal Essence for Elijah's Twitter. At C_Clark_27.
You've had a whole week off of saying that, too.
But I got it right.
Yeah.
And at Schmidt_radio, Chris Schmidt. Follow my Twitter if you like. And Brennan's inviting us to do a show for his wedding, Deadwood, in June.
At the Sportsbook.
I'd be all about it.
Sounds like good content.
We need a rain out for the CWS for a few days.
We also need Connor Clark in studio. Connor.
Well, I got to check the salt dog schedule.
As soon as Connor gets the degree, he is racing away from here. Love you guys. See ya. Someone down in College Station's calling me. I got to run.
No comment.
Enjoy. Thanks for tuning in to Hail Varsity, powered by Cornhead Lager.